Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be here on LinkedIn Live. Just wanted to touch base with you guys and see how things are going in your world. I hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving. I know I did. I spent it down here in Scottsdale, had my mom and dad drive in from Chicago. They wanted to drive. My wife and my kids came down. My aunt and uncle came in. So it was fantastic, and turkey was good. So I hope you guys had an opportunity to spend some time with your family and had some good times. I know we did. So I know that on crypto took a little bit of a hit. So all equities did too. So I know we're bouncing back. I think we're going to miss my prediction of $5,000 on Ethereum in the month of November. So I'm just going to put that out until the end of the year for $5,000. So we'll see what happens as we move forward. But, I wanted to cover something today. And the thing that I wanted to cover with you guys is overcoming failure in business. So, a lot of failure does happen. So as we're going through life, things do happen. But, today with me, going over dealing with your failures, dealing with your team's failures. And then I want to go over some of the scenarios that new businesses or entrepreneurs are likely facing in today's market or have faced in the past. In life, you're going to be making mistakes on a regular basis. And I think some people think that everything, once you get to a certain level, everything's perfect. No, it's not. Heck, you'll probably make several mistakes today alone. I know I have already. And that's starting at 5 o'clock in the morning. It's going to happen. Mistakes are also part of business. If you are a CEO, a manager, a leader, an employee, you have any sort of know-how, you're going to have to deal with these failures. You can't expect to handle your team's failures effectively if you are unable to handle your own. I mean, how often are you dealing with your own problems, but yet you're trying to be a stand for somebody else? And if you're not able to deal with those yourself, you're not going to be able to handle the other people that you're being an advocate for. So let's cover a couple steps you should go through when you're facing your failures. This is where, really working at observing where you are failing or directing yourself so that you have these steps in hand as you're moving forward. It's part of our network promise to really give out free information that has really helped me and our organization grow over the years. So this year, organically, we're growing about 71% in top line revenue. And that's really benefit to all of our employees, our customers, our carriers, and our shareholders, as we're moving forward. So the first step that I want to cover is being prepared. Are you being prepared? Now, that doesn't mean having a plan of action for every possible failure. It's not. It's more about your mindset. What type of mindset are you having up here between our two ears? You have to be mentally prepared and know that failure happens. And when it does, you'll know how to handle it, whatever the situation might be. And that's really important. And that's where being prepared is so important. Now, the other aspect, the second step, is to have an outlet. To have an outlet. Once you've prepared, you need to have an outlet. What is that outlet that you guys have? What is it for you? This is essentially for those small failures that pile up through the day, through the week. You know the things that I'm talking about, the things that are not making a sale or entering an order in wrong. That failure does happen. These small issues aren't going to need some big process change or reevaluation. They just happen. They really do. They can, however, pile up. So it's important to have an outlet to shed that stress from. One of my outlets to really just deal with the mundane failures that happen on a regular basis is golf. Golf is my medication. It's my way of just clearing my mind, my everything that's there. And all I'm focusing in on is this small little white ball. And it's a lot of fun. And in that itself, there's failures. And I can usually go back and find the root cause of maybe I didn't go to the driving range. Maybe I wasn't practicing my short game, whatever the case may be. But that's my outlet. But even on your outlets, you're going to have stresses. So the third one is no emotional decisions. No emotional decisions. How many times have we made emotional decisions and it really just blew up in our face, or matters got even worse? It's kind of like putting fuel onto a campfire and then lighting it. You're going to get a bigger explosion when you put that emotional tie into that. So it's usually easier said than done, right? It really is. But do not make a decision based off your emotions. Just don't do that. Take a step back and give yourself some time, if you need, to make a decision that is completely unbiased. We want to get in there and have a bias towards it. It's something that's mentally attached to us. It's the way our brain works. It's how our brain works and goes back to memories of past situations that are very similar to it. And that's where we can get really caught up into that. So you need, the next step is to build your support. So are you building your support structure to be able to handle whatever breakdowns that do happen? Having a support network is part of being prepared. This could be people outside of your company, inside your company. It could be the executive team, management team, whatever the case may be. It could be your board of directors. It could be a board of advisors. It could be someone chairing a committee on your part. But having that support network is part of being prepared. And if you don't have that, you're not prepared. And it can act out as an outlet for you as well. Being able to have people to go to if you need to take your mind off of the work or to get some advice on your situation. It's so important in both your personal life and your professional life. Having a strong network goes beyond helping your, I would say, your negative failures. It can help you in every aspect of your business and in your life. It's not going to happen overnight. It truly is not. But if you work at it, you'll create a great group of people to have around you. I mean, in this world of transportation that I'm in, there's 28,500 brokers out there, right, in North America. And out of that, I can tell you that I have about 100 good friends that I can call at any point in time that either they own the brokerage or they're managers in the brokerage that I can actually reach out and talk to, publicly held as well as privately held. So it's really interesting to when people go through life and they don't have that support structure. And it's devastating, actually, because you end up making even more mistakes as you go forward. And number one, mistakes are going to happen. We've already covered that. But knowing who you can actually go to and having a resource is even more beneficial for you and your organization, which we need to get to the next one. And we need to have a relevant strategy. What is your strategy? The majority of the time, your time should be spent on reevaluating your strategy each and every day. You have to reevaluate it. It really does. And after making a mistake, you have to reevaluate, right? This is when you ask the who question, the what question, the where question, and the when question. Sometimes we have to understand the why also, the why and even the how. How did this happen? You have to go through that. Once again, the who, the what, the where, the when, the why, and the how. If you can bring those 6 elements into it, that is going to help you make a better decision. And how are you going to make that this sort of thing does happen? It really does. And how do we stop that from not happening again? What can you do next time to be better prepared as you're moving forward? And going through those steps and really identifying that, it's going to be really benefit to you and your team. I know I said it earlier, but you don't want to plan for every single failure, but it's something that's going to happen frequently. Then you should build a process to be able to be prepared for that, because it does happen, especially around holidays. We just got done with a holiday, and anything and everything can happen during a holiday, right? Overall, this is when you make the change or take the action that's required to fix the problem. Sometimes this step is incredibly easy, right? It's easy, so easy that you don't even think about it. I mean, if you lost a sale because you thought insulting the prospect was a good idea, then you know next time to be nice, right? And I hope you guys aren't insulting your prospects or your carriers, but sometimes that happens because your emotions, remember, don't bring any emotions into it, because the emotions can really ruin what you're up to. However, it is a bit of more complex. You may need to dig in thoroughly and look at your process and your reports to find a suitable fix. This is where you're really just magnifying what you're looking at so that you can qualify and then quantify it as you're moving through it. Separate the failure from yourself and learn. That's where I want to get you into this next step is you have to separate the failure from who you are as an individual. If you can do that, you now have two different items that you can actually work towards. Letting yourself become stronger, and then letting yourself strongly getting attached to the failure will make handling it a lot more difficult. Do not get emotionally attached to that failure. And trust me, the way that our brains are wired, we are set up to go ahead and do that. It's a lot more difficult when you do that. So having that warning to say, don't do that, it's so important. It makes trying to fix the problem become a whole inward journey. You don't want to be inward on any of this. You want to have an outward mindset as you're moving forward. You have to realize that in most cases, it's just a small change in how your business is operating or how you do your business. Understand that understanding and recognizing the mistake while continuing to live your life is so essential. But sometimes, and for some of us, most of us, we get caught and we make it so personal, like, I can't believe I did that, or I can't believe Bob did it, or Tim did that. We need to identify and then move forward from there and not make it personal for ourselves, and don't make it personal for the other person. Mistakes and failures happen. It happens to everyone. And it's always there. This is how we become better. Success is 98% failure. And getting down about it is not going to accomplish anything for you or your team. It's not going to help with productivity either. Instead, stay forward thinking. Always stay forward thinking. It will enable you to get past the problem and work towards a solution. When I find myself dealing with a mistake, I just have to remember that what's done is done. You can't cry about spilled milk. I mean, really, if you want to, you could. I've seen my daughters cry about spilled milk, but when that happens, it's done. The only thing left to do is to make any fixes and learn from it, which happens to be my final piece of advice as we move forward. As we look at this, dealing with your team's failure, how do you currently deal with your team's failure? All right, so we just went over how you are going to fail over and over and over again in business, right? What about your team? All right, what about your team though? Well, the same mistakes happen as the leader or manager. How you respond to your team's failure is vital. I mean, so vital. I've ruined teams in the past by doing certain things or not doing certain things. Are you going to be that type of manager that just rages out of control? I sure hope not. Don't do that. That takes years to control or years to correct. So you need to cultivate a risk-friendly environment. Yes, cultivate a risk-friendly environment. Let your team fail. Honestly, risk is essential, and sometimes it works and you're rewarded with big gains. Other times it doesn't work. And the team has to push through the failure regardless. If it's tough, the risk is important for moving forward and driving that success. Make sure your team feels comfortable taking on challenges with confidence and forward thinking without risk. You're not going to be innovative, flexible, or successful if you let your emotions get into that. Let your team process their failures, right? Let them engage with that failures. Identify the failure. Yeah, that was a failure. Now let's work with it and get through it and make sure that they're not making it personal as well, especially with other team members. Let team members vent. Let them vent and you listen to it. And the process of how they see to fix it. Let them tell you how to fix it. Have them be empowered with that fixing. Always remembering your team is comprised of individuals, some of whom will bounce back more quickly than others. So understand, each person is going to be handling this differently. I mean, think of your own family. How many family members handle stress a certain way versus the other family members, right? I can tell you with my two daughters, 8 and 11, Brooke and Sydney, they handle stress a little bit differently. And I have to deal with them when things go wrong or bump in the night differently as well. However, this doesn't mean just walking out and leaving them for a couple of hours. Don't leave your team alone for a couple hours. Failure is exactly when a team needs to get leadership. This is where your leadership and exercising leadership as your natural self-expression will really help your team as you move forward. And you should make it known you are there for them. You're a stand for them. You're an advocate for them. And you're going to help see them through this whole problem as we move forward. And that the door is always open. I know we're not all in the office today, but our door is always open to them, or they can call us or they can hit us up on Teams or Zoom. And we're there to answer their questions, their concerns, and give feedback. Now, let's talk about damage control, because sometimes we have to go in there as leaders and deal with damage control, because damage does happen. Things go bump in the night, right? There are people who need the consequences of this failure, and they need to be able to see as part of working through a failure with the team is so convincing. And they have to see the situation in the right way. How are they going to handle it here in the future? So just understand the damage control has to go through it. And far too often, the way our brains work, our brains go back to past experiences, past employers, past managers, past customers, past carriers, past whatever. And we associate that this experience that you're going through right now, the present experience, all those past failures flush into our mind, and we're dealing with that. And the way that we acted last time shows up again. It's like boiling over. We have to control that. We have to rein in and say, no, not today. Everything's going to be just fine. This may be the first thing you do after your failure. If you wronged a customer in some way, then the first thing you want to do is set it all right. Complete that. Identify any wrongdoing and clean it up. Just say, this is what I did wrong. And then after the issue is resolved, you can go through and examine what actually happened, which actually brings us to my next point. When you're going through this, how do you handle this step? And how you do handle this step, it will determine the success or the failure of your team in the long run. I see this step goes pretty simply to analyzing your own mistakes and analyzing your own failures. You want to ask all the questions and look through all the data. The data tells you so much. The more you look at it from a quantitative standpoint, the data will tell you a history of what actually happened. So get all that data. Listen twice as much than talking. We have 2 ears, 1 mouth. Listen twice as much to your team, the customer, or the carrier, or whoever it may be, and get all that data in, because that data is going to give you the history or really a solution, or show you what actually happened, or in them telling you what happened, you can actually see that, but take note of all of that. The key difference is that you want to include the team with you on this whole process. Let them see what you're doing. It's not like a trade secret. It's not like great grandma's recipe for, the baked beans. You might want to keep that secret, but this, you want your whole team to walk with you on this journey so that they're better equipped in the future on dealing with any of these problems. Bring everyone together so that everyone on the team learns from this mistake. If it's just you learning, then it's just going to happen over and over and over again. Bring everybody in. And this goes for an employee, a manager, CEO. Bring everyone in. If you just hold this, it's not going to be good. This is an example of our network promise, bringing all this information out so other people can hear this, see this, and how we get through this. Make sure to use precision and clarity when identifying what went wrong. Don't just say a mistake was a mistake. No, there's no cause and effect. And if you get that, you will utterly change your business. You really will. There's more to that, but we missed the deadline because of X, Y, and Z. By identifying exactly what went wrong, the team is better prepared to be proactive and avoid the mistake in the future. Most importantly, try to avoid placing blame on individuals. Instead, refocus yourself on overreacting processes. Yes. When you look at this, focus in on, I guess you could say, even not like an overarching process. Really take that new process and create this process, because the old process apparently didn't work. If a few individuals really are blamed, talk to them privately, not publicly. Don't call them out on the floor or in a group setting. And last but not least, be sure to focus in on the future, not the past. Remember how I talked about the past floods us? Every moment, the past floods us. We have to stop that and be present to the present moment on this journey that we're on. And we need to emphasize the solution and not the problem. So let's just go ahead and take a look and see if we have any comments on here. I'm going to go over to my other screen and see comments or anything else. Let's see what we got here. What was your last failure? My last failure. Well, we're not going to use that one today. I would say my last failure was maybe seeing something that needed to be done and like booking a flight and waiting till last second to book it. And then now you're during holiday season. And instead of that ticket costing you $400, that ticket's costing you $800. That is a failure. Pre-plan your flights. Look out to the next quarter, the rest of the quarter, and identify, do you need to be doing any more flights, and get that on, right? So when we look at that, look at your failures and open up about your failures. Take responsibility for your failures. One thing that I saw during my holiday, Thanksgiving holiday, my mother was here and something opened up for me. There was a point in time that I would not take responsibility for anything. And that opened up, and that changed many years ago, probably good 20 years ago. But I started taking on responsibility and not being shamed about it and just making it known that I failed. I'm a human being. A lot of managers, a lot of CEOs don't want anyone to see them fail. They want to be seen more as, impervious, that nothing can affect them. Bull, we're all human beings. This happens. So bring that forward and let other people know that you're human and that you did fail. I just gave you two of my failures in the past. Well, thank you for your comments. Keep them coming, and I'll reply to them as the day and the week goes on. I hope you all were able to get something from this, have a takeaway, at least one takeaway from today's live, and about dealing with failure and dealing with mistakes and just being a better leader in general. Great leadership is learned through failures along the way, and it's inevitable to fail. It really is. Don't think that you're not going to fail, because it's going to happen. Let me know in the comments below, what's a time that you failed? And what did you learn from that experience of failing? Listen, thank you so much for turning into Jim Becker Live. And I can't wait to see you guys next week. Thank you very much and have a great week. Grace and peace.